Good evening, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, you guys seeing what's going on over in China? Have you guys been seeing the bond defaults that are taking place over there? I said this was going to happen. I said it a year ago. I said 2020 was going to be the year of the bond defaults. And it was going to start in China. And that's exactly what's happening. In fact, there's talk coming out of China about tightening up the money policy, tightening up the conditions over there, making the extra accommodative, loose conditions, easy money policies come to an end. They know they're feeding zombies, and they know that can't last. And they're starting to do something about that. See, here in the rest of the world, and everybody seems to think that debt is the answer. More debt and stimulation. There you go. Send out stimulus checks. Get everybody out there buying, consuming. You know, good economic stability comes from production and savings. Something that is gone. We do not see that in this country in any kind of light that we used to have. You know, the savings rate has risen dramatically here in the United States, but it was because of the stimulus checks. Government gave out a bunch of money that people did not earn. What do you think would happen to it? A lot of people spent it, but a lot of people held it. They kept it in their savings. They didn't really need the money, so why spend it? So no doubt that the savings rate would jump. But it doesn't mean that people were saving. You just gave them the ability to save. You changed the numbers. The amount of debt that it took to issue out those stimulus checks still needs to be paid back. It's not free money. It's more debt. And so I look over at China and I think about, like, you guys have been keeping money policy very accommodative, done their own version of QE, did a lot of stuff to keep the interest rates low and to keep the conditions accommodative, and it caused a bunch of zombies. And they know it, and they know that has to come to an end. And so they're going to let it come to an end. They're going to let the interest rates rise. And they're only the most viable companies, only the most credit-worthy, only the ones who are truly profitable will make it through there if you cannot feed on ever-increasing amounts of debt. When you take that away, the zombies will begin to die. And that's what we're going to start seeing. And unfortunately, when zombies die, so do retirements, so do pension funds, so do investments, so does all the hard work that everybody has put into buying these bonds and loaning this money to these corporations, anticipating that they would get a return off of it, is gone. See, this is the world that we live in when you have ultra low yields, ultra low interest rates. You are forcing people to go from the risk-free government bonds into high-yielding corporate risk debt. And so when they fail, it is not a surprise. This is the condition. If you see what's going on in China right now, it's only a matter of time before that shifts over to the United States. And you think about this, China is just the beginning. When these bonds are due in dollars, think about that for a second, guys. We have no idea. Like, we can see, like, I'm sure the banking system can see these bonds, but they can't see everything. And they don't know how big the demand for dollars could get. They don't know who's going to fail next, or how big that failure could get, or if the contagion of failure could grow. See, this is something that you have to think about. And you know, when people tell me that cash is trash and cash is stupid and holding on to cash is like an idiotic thing to do, when all this starts to unwind, when the interest rates rise, when the debt becomes hard to get, the dollar demand is going to be intensely big. Intensely. To the point that people would never have expected it to have been as big as it is. That there was that much demand for the dollar. Even through all the quantitative easing that has happened, all the huge amount of money supply that has come into the game, it still doesn't make up for the huge amount of demand out there for dollars that we are not quite sure of how big it really is, or how much of that demand can come onto the game at once. You know, when assets begin to fail, when the bubbles begin to pop and people start to get out of those assets as fast as they can, you can really see the prices drop and the dollar demand go through the roof. And so I think about that when I look over at China. China is desperately trying to change their economy. You can see it. That digital yuan, that's not just some kind of novelty for them. This is an economic change. They are going to change the way their economy is operating. And when they get that digital dollar up and running and it's in full 100% mode, and they no longer have cash in their system, you're going to see some real changes to the way the banking system is handled. When they start forcing negative interest rates onto savings accounts, when they put time deposit or time limitations on your money, forcing you to spend it within a certain amount of time or begin to lose it, when they charge you to withdraw or deposit cash, you're going to see a whole new economic system. The Great Reset does not, in my opinion, will not alleviate anybody's debt. That debt is always going to be due. How they get it from you is where the change is going to come in. See, a lot of people can find their ways to not pay taxes or get out of being part of the system or one way or the other. Once it all goes digital, there is no getting out. You are in it. And there is going to be very little that you can do in order to try and stay out of that system. If you have a job, if you want to pay a bill, if you want to buy a house, if you want to go to school, all that stuff, you're going to have to be part of the tokenized digital world, or else you just don't get to play the game. You know, I think about that kind of stuff, and if that condition of life is going to be in our future, all the more reason I load up on silver. All the more reason to load up on the decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. All the more reason to have cash on hand. If they are going to force a negative interest rates into your life, if they are going to change the system to enslave you into their debt-based currencies in a way that you cannot get out of it, then I am going to focus my attention on saving in a way that I can. You know, you listen to the Federal Reserve talk about inflation, no inflation, inflation's coming, we're going to raise interest rates coming into the future. It's all talk. It's all a matter of attempting to get you to behave in a certain fashion. If they can get you to believe that inflation is going to come, then you will behave in a way that inflation will come. The Federal Reserve cannot force inflation on us. They could. I mean, they could outright just start buying assets and stuff like that, or just injecting money into our pockets every single day and cause inflation to come up. But that's not in their charter. They can't legally do it. They can only loan money into existence, and this loaning of money into existence at this low yield has caused money velocity to drop to almost nothing. It's slow. It's barely moving at all. And therefore the inflation is hard to see if you can't get the money velocity up. And so the Federal Reserve really doesn't have anything. They have nothing they can do except for talk, a few other tools like the yield curve control kind of thing. But after that, they're done. And so when inflation does come, they will have something they can do. Finally, the Federal Reserve will be able to do something about it, and they can raise interest rates. We, the people, have to be convinced of inflation so that the Federal Reserve can actually do something. Otherwise, they're done. The only thing they can do is print up money, buy treasuries, and jawbone. Tell people that that inflation's coming, even though they're doing nothing differently than they've done for the last 10 years. Anyway, I'm going to go home and get something to eat. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know. I'll leave links down in the description for you guys. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think about the Chinese defaults going on over there, the bond defaults, and whether or not they're going to lead the world into higher interest rates, because it certainly seems that they're going to be tightening up their monetary policy before anybody else does. Okay, uneducated economists, you guys let me know.